What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Web Buzz Podcast, the podcast that has taken a major hiatus, but it's all for the better. I want to welcome back my co-host, my sidekick, the Google Nader himself, Mr. Roger Valdez. What's going on, my man?
Going good, man. Going good. It's great to be back. I'll be honest. I think we were talking about this backstage. It's been a while, but you know what? It was a much needed kind of rest, regroup, get some ideas going, and I mean, what we have planned for the upcoming months is going to be awesome. Especially this first one. This first one's fire, man. So I'm excited to get rolling on this one.
I have a question though before we get going. Sure. How much did you practice or rehearse yesterday, today? How nervous were you leading into? Do you even remember how to podcast?
I'm going to be honest. How nervous and how much I prepped was probably the 5 minutes before this.
Awesome. That means, folks, all those other episodes didn't go to waste. We actually got Roger into a podcaster role, and it's stuck.
Oh yeah. You know what? One of the things I think I can throw out there, a lot of us do have that camera fear, that audio feel, just putting content out there, just your thoughts, right? And that's one thing I think last year was a big milestone for myself. So I got to give kudos to Shawn pushing me in that direction. And now we can hop on. And you know what? When you're pretty much kind of and you know, you see yourself at the point where you're an expert in your space, you can feel confident enough to put some information out there. So we always kind of push our clients to get out there, because that's how you build your authority and your markets, right? Whatever you're doing, there's nothing wrong with that. When you know somewhat what you're doing, you've done the research, you have the education behind it, why not, right?
Absolutely. Now, the next thing that we have to work on is his background.
The background. So I went to all white.
We just got to add some color pop. That's it.
Yes. So I have a nice screen coming up here, so I can have something on there next time. So that's going to be something to look out for the next podcast. What's going to be behind Roger's wall here.
Awesome. Well, today, as Roger said, folks, we got a fire episode for you guys. We got two of our, I'll play favoritism here, two of probably my favorite clients right now in the moment on the show with us. And I say that because they've gone from this transition of being our clients to what I would actually say is more kind of like family, friend, right? Really close relationship. We spent some time earlier this year in Houston with them while we were at an event. We got to know them even better. They've been out here to LA to the office. And I'm excited because, and I don't want to give too much away just yet, but they've seen some massive growth just in the last handful of weeks. And it's because of a lot of the stuff that Roger and I spent a lot of early part of this year, late last year, talking about. They took action. And now the fruits of that action are starting to kind of come to the surface. So anything you want to share before we get diving into today's show?
Yeah, no. I'm going to go in the same direction you were going in regards to this duo, right? That they've kind of become almost like family. It feels that way. So internally with our company, that's been always company culture, how we build internally and how we try to express ourselves and help our clients and build them almost like a community, but also family, right? Really care about the results, where they're going, and we all grow together. But this duo, this group, this company, I mean, they've followed, you know, they trusted the process, and that's something we push on a lot when you come into one of our levels of packages or services that we offer. But then there's a lot of education behind it on what you should be doing next, right? And this particular company has followed those steps, step by step, and it's taken a little bit to get to where they're going, but you can't start at the top, right? You got to work yourself there. And I think right now we're kind of reaping those rewards of all that work that's been putting out there. So yeah, excited to bring them on and kind of talk a little bit more about it.
Absolutely. So with that, folks, let's go ahead and get into today's show. first reactions? It's the first time you saw the new video.
That is pretty cool. I'm gonna have to give a shout out to our video guy tomorrow. He's done a good job. He's been with us for a while, and he's starting to get to know kind of like the brand really good and
Yes,
what we
he
like.
is.
So, yep, love it.
All right. Well, before we introduce our guests, I do want to say today's show is brought to you guys by Lead Vault CRM. It is our marketing platform that Roger and I have put our blood, sweat, and tears into, and hands down what I think is probably one of the best automated marketing systems, CRMs, out there in the real estate space. So if you're a real estate investor and you're looking for a good CRM, Lead Vault CRM is a great option. And the two guests that we have on today, they'll probably say some good things about it because I know they're loving using it. So our guest today is none other than the dynamic father-son duo from Ohana Legacy Properties out of the Houston, Texas market, a market that probably is going to be flooded out and, just a chain of islands in the near, 50 years. But currently they are rocking it, helping the Houston area. And I'll let them get into more specific on what they focus on. But I want to bring on Chris and Sal. Can you guys hear us? If you can, welcome.
Hey, hi, everybody.
What's going on, guys? Great to see you.
I love that intro, man. Pretty dynamic.
Did it pump you up?
It did.
Oh, yeah, I'm ready.
I did 3 backflips behind my chair before.
Oh, yeah.
So in case you guys don't know, Chris is a very athletic weightlifter. We'll call it that. I don't even want to call you power lifter because I think you could power through even more than that. But I think I saw you back there.
Yeah,
or something.
I can't wait until we get an office gym, right?
Awesome. Well, guys, get us going here. Tell everybody. You guys can kind of decide who wants to answer each of these different questions, but give us a little backstory. Who is Ohana Legacy Properties? Who's Chris and Sal? What is it that you guys kind of do? Who do you focus on helping in the real estate space? Give us a little backstory.
Okay. Chris and I are father and son. We live in Houston, and I had a very successful career in the corporate world, like most people do. And after 6 months, got bored and decided we needed to do something to keep me busy and also to keep provide for everyone else. And we sat around the table, decided we needed to get specific training. When we sat around and talked about what we're going to call this company, Chris and my daughter came up with this Ohana thing because it means family. No one gets forgotten or left behind. And I thought it was great. So that's how we use it. But everyone thinks we're Hawaiian. So we have to always say, no, we're not Hawaiian. We're actually Italian and we live in Houston. Let's not explain that. Let's go from there. The thing we did was got some real strong formalized training, similar to what Shawn and Roger did with actually the same group. And, but that group only could take us so far. And we reached that point pretty quickly, probably within a year. And we knew we had to do something different. And we met up with the TRC folks and the REI Toolbox guys, really liked what they had to say. And we joined in and, at first we're like, oh my God, I hope we're doing the right thing. But we know we're doing the right thing. And we have told them always we're in because we know, quite frankly, we couldn't keep doing what we were doing before because what we were doing before, we hit a brick wall. We were done. No one knew who we were. Our website sat there and just collected dust. When Shawn and Roger came in and started talking to us, they were pretty direct and said, you got to change everything from the business cards to the website to this. And after we got off the first few phone calls, we were shaking our heads going, oh my God, how much work we've got. But that's how we moved forward. And even from then, and I'll let Chris step in, even from then, we got off the ground with Shawn and Roger, but then we had to take the next step. And we didn't really know until we really paid attention to the workshops that these guys put on, the training that they were doing. I mean, not that everything was perfect, but we listened, we took notes. We after the call, we debriefed together, and we said, what is it that we need to do? And we really didn't know a lot about that, about shrinking down and really focusing in until several months ago. And I'll let Chris fill in on that. But Shawn and Roger were very influential to us, especially when they came to Houston. They were working with another group of people, and they took the time to sit down with us in between drinks, in between cocktails. And
I think I have a picture
It's perfect.
of Chris holding the drink for Roger so that Roger can work on the website while
Yes.
Chris lets him still drink.
That's
right,
the
absolutely.
We're gonna have to
Yeah.
repost that,
That
Shawn.
was
So
that
that
was the
was
teamwork that we
perfect.
found between the four of us, and that's when we realized we were family. And then and as the night went on, we started telling a lot of lies about each other, and we started to believe everything, and that's how the close relationship started. But it was at that point in March where things really started to shift, where they made us a marketing machine as opposed to just being out there. So Chris, I'm going to let you, I'll stop at that point.
Yeah, I mean that covers the base. So basically, like my dad was saying, there was a time where he was retired and didn't know what to do, and I was personal training for 10 years in school, and heard a commercial on the radio. I'm sure a lot of listeners or people have heard about that particular commercial that comes on and says, "Hey, I'm just gonna say it right, Dan Merrill's commercial," and we're like, "Cool, let's get started. Let's go to the 3-day free workshop. It's free, right? Cool. We go in." Get there. They're like, "Oh, we're going to give you a little bit and then later trail you on until the big package." So we put the big package in, like how the story goes. And we are a year in and COVID hits right when it hits. And we have a website. We're doing as much direct mail as we know how to do for as many different avatars as we know how to do. We're doing everything everywhere. It was a mess. It really was a mess. And we didn't have a system. We could talk to people, we could sell, but we just didn't have a system. And so my dad had found Shawn and Roger, lo and behold, through social media somehow, ended up having a consultation call. And the first 6 months, I was on those calls like a deer in the headlights. I don't know what the hell they were talking about. They were speaking some alien language, especially Roger. I had to Google what SEO meant. I had no clue. I was talking to my fiance, and I was like, "What is SEO? Do you know?" She goes, "No, let me Google it, SEO." So I had to, we stuck around, and we were like, these guys are very, very intelligent. They know what they're doing. They have a process. And most importantly, I've always said this, and they know what I'm a person. They really care, really, really do care about your success. So we saw that, and we put in the work. We said, let's give it a shot. And it took we got along for a few months, and it took up until a trip that we took in LA a few months back. When was that, guys? I can't remember.
June.
In June, right?
Yeah.
So we went to that trip, and it was a great trip because it got to dissect every single part of our website and our SEO campaigns and our marketing. After that, we come in, we implemented everything possible that we possibly could, worked late hours, long days, and it's finally started to pay off. Because there was a time for 3 years we were not, where we told we could be by the group that we originally started with. So, I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit more, but we've started to finally yield results. We've started to finally, after all the work and the videos and me being red and shy on camera, we finally have some stuff going for us. And it's been an awesome ride. And
it's funny. It's funny because we'd be on these programs with Shawn and Roger, and then, we'd get on mute, and I turn around and look at him and say, "Did you understand what they said?" And I said, "No." I said, "Oh my God." I said, "I'm lost," and that was at the beginning. But the good news is, through text messages, through phone conversations, Shawn and Roger were able. I said, "Look, dumb this down, man. I just don't understand." And even to this point, we got a separate whiteboard so that I can do diagrams of what an SEO is and what a lead magnet is, and so I can understand it. So, but they helped us decide that we were. What the right word? You can play in a big pond with everybody else and catch one or two fish, or do you go to a smaller pond where no one else is? Not a lot of people are fishing, and decide what get those things. The beauty of what's happening now, and I know you guys have some questions, but we were talking about this because we just came back from a 2-hour round trip to look at a house this morning, and one of the things we said is
on one of the islands.
On one of the islands Shawn was talking about, is that the good news is we don't get a lot of leads now, but the leads are qualified because they're searching for us.
Hold on, I got something for that comment right there.
Okay.
That was gold. Qualified leads.
They're
not
qualified
just
leads. And actually, the one this morning, as far one of the techniques that we learned is it's not just all texting, it's not just all emails, it's not just all direct mail. And Shawn and Roger have told us this. It's a combination of everything, and the reasons behind that's different. So I know Shawn makes a lot of fun of my pens and my sticky notepads, and that's the old pharmaceutical way. But you know what? We're going to laugh about this. The lead we went to this morning. Yeah, there you go. Hey, there it is.
Roger's even carrying your pen. Look at that.
Just a quick story. We get a phone call. We just filled out a contract for one particular house that we got a lead on, and then we get a phone call through the Lead Vault, and actually it's on Lead Vault right now, and it's recorded. So I would love for you two guys to listen to it. But it's the guy says, "Hey, I got to sell my house." I said, "Okay," and I'm thinking, I don't know what he's thinking. I said, "Okay, very good. Tell me about it." And we went through the conversation. I said, "How did you find us?" Learn that again from Shawn and Roger. How did you find us? And so I'm waiting for him to say he went through the website and everything else. He didn't do that. Get ready, Shawn. He said he went to one of these real estate online services to get a price for this house. They sent him a contract. He sent the contract to his lawyer. His lawyer looked at it, put a sticky notepad on it, said the contract's okay. The guy got it back, and guess whose sticky notepad it was?
No.
It was, yep.
No.
Yep. You don't know about it. It was ours. And he said, "Let me call these guys on this number." And we just went to the house, and we're gonna put an offer in.
So he never signed the contract. Attorney says it's okay. Attorney uses your notepad to write this note,
which I sent out because of you guys saying, send some stuff out. And I sent a packet with notepads and sticky notepads and pens.
All right, hold on.
Not only we have that, but we got a lead for a lawyer, because I'm going to call him and say, "Hey, thanks a lot. You don't know what you just did for us."
No.
You know what we do.
You're not going to call him and do that. After you close this deal, you're going to just randomly send this guy a check with a little monetary donation as a referral payment.
Right. I mean,
that's what you're going to do.
That happened Wednesday night, right after your call, right after the Wednesday call. And I was dying to tell you guys this the other day, but I just, I called Chris. I said, "You are not going to believe what just happened. I'm going to rub this in Shawn's face, because he thought that sticky notepad stuff was crazy."
That deserves the drop.
Talk about qualified leads.
Oh man, you just threw the whole show into a completely different spiral.
It was nuts. It was nuts.
I am coming back to that, but before I know I've got a shit ton of questions to ask, and I could hog this whole entire episode. And Roger's terrible at kind of cutting me off. He always stays polite and quiet in the background, and he did that the whole time we were gone on trail, folks.
By the way, this
was always quiet in the background.
Here it is.
But-
It even has the wrong number. And he still got to us.
But Roger, what do you got for these guys to get us going here?
Oh man, I'm kind of like you, man. It's like they just kind of uncovered so much right there. But it's funny. I'm just kind of going to recap a little bit on a lot of this stuff that was mentioned, just so you know, everybody that listens to this, watches this, kind of gets a little bit of a gist, and hopefully not loses kind of the context of this. Because the first thing that kind of caught my attention, I'm kind of the SEO in our group, right? It's like I'm the SEO expert that always kind of hops on, does some education. But it was really funny.
And Chris, what is SEO?
Search engine optimization.
There you go. All right. So students are learning something, right? So when he said that, it's very funny because one of the things that is important to know about any industry, any business, right? I think we can all agree that you got to be a life learner. I mean, we all come to the table with some kind of education, some kind of background, but if you shut yourself off to new information, you're shutting yourself off for opportunity, right? So one of the things that I can appreciate from Ohana Legacy, Chris and Sal here, is that they are life learners. They are true life learners. And they are not afraid to say, I don't know. They are not afraid to raise their hand. I don't know how many times Sal would be on these calls, Chris would be on these calls with us, our trainings. And at the end of the call, they're like, hey, you know what? Can I schedule a call? I did not get any of that stuff, but I sounded important. So we would take the time to do that. The other thing on our end, something to kind of look at what we do, and hopefully, right, I can appreciate what you said there in regards to being able to kind of be open and us taking the time, is for everybody. You need to listen to your potential clients, right? You heard the verb or the word avatar be thrown out by Chris to different avatars. For those of you that don't know, those are your target audience, right? Your target audience, who you're trying to market to. And if you are all over the place, there isn't a targeted, clear message. So the message gets lost in the mix. So one of the things that we have kind of like tried to strategize towards and help our clients towards is really narrow that down, because that will affect your entire marketing strategy, right? So that's something that just going back to just being a life learner, right? Just keep that open, because you guys are the definition of that. The other thing is kind of touching on that is the blue ocean strategy, right? Really finding the opportunity within a niche. So a lot of us go out there in this space, in this podcast, we're talking about real estate. And more specifically, we're talking about real estate investing, right? Very, very specific. And then you can even find a niche within that niche. And that's something that I think it took a little bit to get in there. And I'm not saying that everybody has to go out there and they're going to find it right out of the gate. You might have to test a couple of those micro niches, right? And see what works for you guys. Or at the end of the day, or the real path is to see what of those micro niches speaks to you. And one of the things that I think Ohana Legacy has done very, very well is they found that niche within a niche that speaks to them, right? That speaks to them, that they feel really, really good about, that they are proud to go out there, put out information, and want to help that particular avatar, target market, right? So I can appreciate that from you guys. And then the final thing before I hand it over to Shawn here to put in his 2 cents is I do want to kind of stress is having the strategy. So something that Chris and Sal here mentioned that's super important. We go out there and we want to start a business, right? At the end of the day, a business is something that's going to provide wealth and freedom for a lot of us as business owners, but we also want to do something that's providing a service to somebody else, right? That we're helping something to move forward, right? And in this case, we're helping, in a lot of cases, right? There's a lot of situations, but in a lot of cases, we're helping people that are maybe in a distressed situation or just a situation that they have a real estate property that they need to get, kind of offload. And we need to provide them good solutions, right? That they might have not thought about. And that's kind of huge there. But with that, we go out there and get all this information. You guys mentioned there's companies, educational platforms. I can go for days mentioning these platforms because Shawn and I have been in this industry for a while, right? So we've seen this time and time again, where there is a lot of information. And I'll be honest, it's good information, but it's all over the place. And it's really hard when you don't have a plan of action. So another thing that has been great to watch you guys is to trust the process with us, right? So having those next, I just finished reading a book called Your Next 5 Moves, right? By Patrick Bet-David. And it's great because it basically preaches to what we preach within our core values, right? It's like you need a process. If you don't have a process, you're not going to go anywhere, no matter how good each individual task is that you're doing. If you don't put it in a row, right, you don't know your next steps, it's really hard to get to the finish line and then start what's next, right? Because it's never over. It's you're going to have your next steps. You get to that finish line, you accomplish that milestone, but then you grow. You always have to stay hungry, right? You always have to stay ready for that next big thing. And I mean, just to throw it in there with COVID, you guys had to pivot. Everybody did. Every single industry out there had to pivot. So it's good to have those processes, those steps, that plan of action, what's happening next. Because if you have that, then you can pivot no matter what's in front of you. That way you can
that's a great point. One of the things that made us shift right after March, when you guys were here in Houston, and we got to really be friends. I mean, I think we spent a lot of time together, and we couldn't outlast Roger and Shawn in terms of drinking, but we tried our best when we were in LA. I think
not
Chris
just drinking. Roger and I were working at midnight.
Yeah, right.
That's talent.
Well, I gotta say, they were working, and they were at a convention, and Chris and I went there really to get help, but we wound up helping them. We were walking around, pushing people towards the booth, and letting people know what good job it was. But that day was the day that you got us going in the right direction, because we realized after that day, we came back and we spent 3 or 4 days talking about who moved my cheese. Okay. And it's an old story. And I remember training a bunch of my reps about this, like, the cheese has moved. It ain't coming back, and you're going to starve, or you got to go find the cheese. So where's our cheese moved to? And we're staring at our whiteboard, looking at all these. We kept saying to Shawn, "Yeah, we got a lot of lines in lines in the water, and we can't wait." Well, nothing was happening, and we had to shrink down. And once we started shrinking down and getting that niche, that's when things started to cook.
So let's shift to some juicy stuff. And before we do, I just want to say I'm glad to have the Google Nader himself back. That was just probably the most I've heard him talk in, I don't know, 2 months.
He's smiling.
It was good to finally hear some passion come back out of you,
Yay.
Roger. It was great. But let's get into some juicy stuff. Obviously, you guys have been with us now for a while. We've been talking a lot about that. You kind of bootstrapped it early on, right? You got started in our foundation package. You're trying to get on these calls, trying to learn this whole other language and what the heck it meant. And you eventually kind of said, okay, enough's enough, time to get serious. And you guys kind of moved up into a little bit more robust package, one where Roger and the SEO team can kind of take all that off your plate and just kind of go to work for you. Let's start there. Talk about that decision and what kind of led into it. What was kind of the factors around it? We're here to talk real stuff about marketing. What was some of the stress that might have been going around that, or what? Just give us a little bit of the background on that early transition from, I'm a real estate investor, not an SEO expert. I know this makes sense. I've tried to do it. I'm ready to give it to somebody else.
You want me to go?
Chris, please.
Yeah. So I think when that decision came from going from the most basic start and to upgrade, essentially, was we were started to get too busy being SEO experts, or trying to become SEO experts, quote unquote, than we were buying and flipping homes. So it was taking away the times that we needed and the stress, and it was another learning curve. It was just something that we essentially didn't really desire to have too much time for. And we knew that these guys knew what they were doing. So we were like, all right, let's upgrade. Let's get some of this stuff off of our plate so we could do what we do best and what we actually got in this business to do. And that's talking to people and helping people with their housing situations. And let's just get it off our plate. And that led to it. And of course, something can always be done. There's always something to be done. There's always something in the on the long arm list of things to do. But this helped freed us to that point. And also, we knew if we did not do this, it would be even slower because, everyone's in a competitive market, right? But realistically, there are markets that are a lot more competitive than others. We live in one of the major metropolitan cities in the South, Houston, Texas, and it is massive. And we get outgunned time and time again. We struggle just getting our name out there. That's what we wanted in the beginning, which I'm sure we're probably going to talk about branding in a little bit. We just wanted to break the surface. We knew to be able to do that, it's worth just upgrading. It's absolutely worth just upgrading. So that in a nutshell is what was our decision to move upwards.
So Roger, why don't you talk real quick on this piece? Because obviously, Chris, Sal, that you make that decision, your time's being consumed with the wrong tasks. And Chris, you're 100% right when you say it's only going to be slower. But at the end of the day, SEO is still slow. Right? This is probably a misconception that a lot of individuals out there have is, I'm doing this work. Whether it's with us or some other SEO company out there, I'm paying to get SEO work done. I should be seeing results tomorrow, kind of thing. So Roger, why don't you talk just a little bit about that, kind of that ramp up period? Because I don't want people to think that you guys made this switch and all of a sudden that's why we're having all this success.
Right.
There's a ramp up period in here, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the other stuff that went into that time frame. Roger, just talk briefly on that, and especially with some of the changes that are happening, have happened, and are planned to come here in the future.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's a really important topic because it's a topic that just gets thrown around in regards to, hey, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and hire an agency and do some SEO for me, right? There's more to it, right? There's when I talk about, I don't want to kind of get too deep into what it takes or what's in the tasks involved in running a proper SEO campaign, because every industry is different. Every industry is looking for something a little different on how you brand yourself, how you set up your digital footprint. In this case, we're talking about real estate investing. So just with that, I mean, you can have a website, and a lot of us, let's be honest, you go and you look up, we buy houses, sell your house fast, cash buyers. You look at those websites, and to be honest, we're all saying the same thing, right? And it's really hard to say something different because those are the keywords essentially that are being awarded by Google. And those, unfortunately, not even unfortunately, just the nature of the beast. That's what people are looking up, because if they're looking for cash or sold, that's almost a brand. We buy houses, things like that. So that's what they're looking up to find cash buyers. So initially, we have to make sure that our website has that type of content on there, right? But at the end of the day, if everybody else is saying that, then Google has to make a decision. So if it has 1,000 websites in a market and it has to decide who's going to rank first, then that's where the next level of SEO comes in, right? Once you do what we call on page, and the on page, meaning the actual website itself, the page, right, has the correct information, the correct keywords, now you're on to the next level. Now you need to be able to build that authority for that page and to solidify that you're a real company, that you're a local company, right? And that you can provide some value. So how do you do that? You go out there and you start building pretty much like content or profiles. We call them citations sometimes. Even if you do like a press release or something, those are assets outside of the website. Those are other websites on the internet that are talking about your brand. Those are signals. Those are basically brand authority signals for your brand, which is that next level, right? So that's kind of like what you want to be doing. And then the final part is, now you have the traffic. Now what do you do? You still don't get leads. That's realistic, right, Shawn? Sal, Chris, you guys, and many, many keywords, you guys were still ranking well, right? We were looking at it. You were getting traffic, but guess what? Nobody's choosing you. What's the problem, right? What's the problem? Why are they not choosing you? Because they have so many other options. So that final step is kind of separating yourself from all the noise and being able to make sure that you're the only one they want to talk to. And how do you do that? It goes back to branding, the message that's on the website, who you're targeting, right? Who your actual avatar, target market, who is that? Being very, very specific. And at the end of the day, the personalization of the website or the content, meaning, do you have a video on there? That's Chris and Sal talking about their process, right? Do you have pictures of projects that you have done in the past to show that you are really doing what you say you're doing? Things like that. So I'll go ahead and stop there, Shawn. I know there's much more we can go on, but it gives everybody an idea of where we're headed.
Just to add into that, when they started showing us, when REI Toolbox started showing us where we were ranking, for example, in the Houston market, we were 38th. Now, not 38, but we're on the 38th page. Okay, we were on the 38th page. You know how depressing that is? And we looked at each other, put our foreheads on the table going, what the heck are we doing wrong? I said, we're doing all this work. Well, we didn't, like Roger said, we didn't distinguish ourselves. We were saying the same thing. We buy houses fast. We buy houses with cash. And, there were a million other people doing that. And that's when we knew we had to make the shift.
So that actually leads right to the next question, because when you guys got started, right, go all the way back to the beginning of your real estate venture, you got started like most other people that go to these guru events, get sucked in, whatever the case, right? You feel like, oh, I'm going to be a millionaire tomorrow. I'll be doing 50 deals next month. And, all I have to do is just tell people I pay cash for houses and I'm good, right?
Right.
Today, Ohana Legacy Properties is completely different.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And talk about that shift. Roger hit on this earlier, but you guys niched down in a niche, right? Real estate is a broad thing. Real estate investing is a broad thing. Saying we buy houses is a broad component. That's all the niche, right? But you guys have really kind of carved out a very niched focus inside of that niche. And we'll talk what that's done from a result standpoint here in a second, but talk about why that change, why the shift, why you chose the niche that you've kind of sub-niched into. Talk a little bit about that.
We went back and looked at when we were evaluating where our cheese went, so to speak, okay, after the March meeting with you guys. We went back and looked and said, where are we getting our deals from? And then once we get them, how does that work? And we came to a light bulb came off. It was mostly elderly people or people that have lost a family member, and they didn't know what to do with the house. And we stepped in, and because we had been through this personally ourselves, where each of us, I've lost my parents and my in-laws, and we went through that. And Chris was, younger, of course, but we came across as a family. We came across very sympathetic, and we realized that these people really liked us. We didn't realize it. We just thought it was part of the process. And Chris made it very clear. We didn't come across transactional like most people do. Most people get on the phone and say, hey, you got a house? Okay. And we're getting it right now because we're having an open house tomorrow. It's for this much. Will you take less? It's, and then they just hang up, where we're like, oh, what's your name? Where are you? Oh, okay. I went to that school too, and we're trying to make it more relaxing. But we found out that there are certain part of this business that we seem to attract, whether it's by accident or not. And that seems to be our niche. And it's just a natural way. It's easier for us to help people than to just take something away from them. Okay. A perfect example, and I'll let Chris fill in on this. We went to see a house. It was a probate house, and that's what we kind of did. And there was an investor group that was in there before us. Remember this, Chris? Mm-hmm. And we walked in after them. They invited us in. Hello, how are you? And the first thing the lady said to us was, you're not going to try to make me sign this contract right now, are you? And we went, no. We're not here for you to sign a contract. We're here to find out what's going on and what we can do for you. He said, well, yeah, this guy said he was going to take all our junk and throw it out. I said, well, this is not junk. This is your family's mementos and memories. And, we both were saying this, and Chris was walking around looking for pictures. Oh, you're a found out she was what was it? She was a rollerblader or
roller derby. Yeah.
She was a roller derby person. So she was the tough girl. So Chris had a conversation with her about that. That's what we started realizing.
Yeah. And, piggybacking off that, we took a long, hard look at our values and core ethics. Like for for instance, our name Ohana, it means family, and we literally are family. It's me and my dad, and my mom and fiance, and sometimes people do stuff in the background. So it's not so much that we like target it down, like, oh, we're going to use this. It just came natural, and so we figured, like, hey, well, let's use this strength of ours to go into that specific niche of probate and to help these families, because now there's been so many hours and times to where, like, we're sitting there and it feels like a therapy session. It's hard. Like, these people are going through some hard stuff. Like, usually a lot of times it's the provider of the home that's passed, or a grandparent that's passed, and they're in disarray. They're just emotionally in disarray, and we're able to come in there, and we don't care about the number. We don't care about the contract stuff in the beginning. Of course, that's necessary, but like, how can we help these people? That's originally what we got into this business for to begin with. And don't get me wrong, being transactional is not a bad thing at all, but that's just not us. It's more of how can we help these people? Like, there's times where I think three of the deals that we've had so far, I will physically go in and help them move. Now, a lot of times we're taught, by these large gurus, don't be the guy in there helping them move boxes. But what is it? What is 2 hours of your time to help this lady who's like 55 with back problems, who has no moving crew? And what is it? It doesn't cost anything, and it's fulfilling, and it helps. We started this company to make a difference truly in our community. And of course we want to profit from it. Like, it's the sweat of our labor, but how far can we take this? And it wasn't happening within the standardized list of like pre-foreclosure. Like, that's a different scenario, very different scenario. Of course it's transactional. Like, the bank doesn't care whether you're a nice person or not. They don't care whether you're going to help them move boxers or not. They want their money and they want it now. So whatever the highest number is going to be. One of the things that Shawn and Roger has taught us is like specific marketing tactics to play to those strengths. So we just essentially fell into this niche that is just fits us a lot more. So, I mean, what I would say is just find that niche, right? Find what you like to do. I love this stuff. I love little family mementos, little cross-stitching stuff. Like everyone was born in like the 1920s, 1950s cross-stitch. That's cool. So
yeah, I think you nailed it right there. Right, I've seen this far too long, Roger. I guarantee you've seen it too. Some whatever guy stands or gal stands on the stage and says, "I've done all my deals by ripping off the bank and getting loans back in place and blah 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 blah." Right, or I've done all my deals because the best thing out there is code violations. And it's what happens. Every real estate person that hears that is like, oh, that's what we got to go do, right? We've got to be doing code violation. Yep. We got to do pre-foreclosure or whatever the case, right? Yep. You nailed it, I think, Chris, when you just said it became natural. Right? You guys fell on this probate focus, making Ohana Legacy the probate experts in the Katy and Houston areas, because naturally you feel comfortable. You feel confident, you get fulfillment out of it. And I also love, everybody, I asked this question the other day in our Facebook group, why did you choose real estate as the business of choice? And most people always answer back with, well, I wanted to make an impact and I wanted freedom for my own self, my family, that kind of stuff, right? That's the transactional side of it, the profit side of it. But for most people, it's, I wanted to give back to my community. I wanted to help neighborhoods. I wanted to give back to the members of those neighborhoods, right? I wanted to have a purpose for my business. But
Shawn,
we're blinded. Go ahead.
Even as simple as us, when we do make a deal and we sign the contract and we shake hands, let me tell you something. We didn't give them the highest price. Like you say, if you're looking for the highest price, we're probably not the people to work with. I'm using exactly what Shawn told us. And the fact is that these last 3 deals we got, we were the lowest by $10,000 or $20,000, but they still went with us
because
they liked us and they trusted us because of how we were, to the point where after we shook hands and we got the signed contract, one of the things we do is we say, what kind of flowers did your mom like? What kind of plants did your mom like? And they tell us, like, we're going to make sure when we redo the front yard, we're going to plant all those plants in there in the front. We'll send you a picture. How hard is that? How hard is that? You know?
So Roger, I see you kind of acting like you want to ask. I want to shift us to something.
You know me, I don't want to interrupt it, but I'll take 1 minute just for a comment there, because I think it was pretty important. You mentioned, Chris, how long does it take? 2 hours of your day to help somebody move in the heat after selling, you helping them through this process, right? And still kind of helping them move. I think a lot of the stuff, even what Shawn said here, where we run into a lot of the experts, gurus that are out there teaching this, more of a shark mentality, and showing you what they've done today, right? Yesterday, last week. But what we miss is where were they 5 years ago, 10 years ago, right? When it first started. And what we have to be realistic is we can't compare ourselves to somebody that's been kind of doing this for 10 years, 15 years, right? We got to start at the beginning. And this is, I believe, what's being missed, and what you guys have picked up on is, like, you are kind of getting momentum. You have to go out there and do those things that are said, oh, that's too much, right? Help them move, plant flowers, do whatever it takes, because that's going to solidify your brand. And that's the entire thing. Later, 5 years from now, you'll be able to have a process. It's no longer you planting the flowers or moving them out. You have a company that you're outsourcing to already as you go through this process to still give that feel, but you added it to the process. Now it's automated. When you stand on a stage and you tell somebody that's what you're doing, everybody's going to be like, how are you doing that? But you don't get it. They don't get the beginning. You did that yourself, right? When you first started. Then you had a process in place that made sense. But I think that's an important part, that we're always comparing ourselves to somebody that's been in whatever you're doing for years, and it's your first week. It's like, you have to start somewhere, which means you got to get your hands dirty, help out, do everything that you can to set yourself apart.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we are still digging out of the hole we had from the COVID and everything else. And, we're certainly not, going crazy. But as Chris said the other day, we see the light at the end of the tunnel. We see that we're headed in the right path. We're seeing that we're getting qualified leads, where it's falling in a lot more natural, and that's making us excited.
So I want to shift to that piece here as we get ready to kind of wrap down the show. And Roger, I'll have you kind of get started first and talk more just from the technical aspect, because there really wasn't that much of a change, but it was a massive change that Chris, Sal, and then basically the whole Ohana Legacy brand kind of tweaked a couple things. And when I say a couple, I mean, we're really talking a word or two. That's why I say it wasn't a lot.
Correct.
But in reality, it was a lot. So just talk from that technical side.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's more, number one, you have to have that burning desire in a certain niche, right? What I'm talking about is that burning desire is like, you want to work in that niche, number one, right? And I think that's what you guys did. What matters to you? You went and found, and through trial and error, maybe, right? Because you guys were at an event with us, and you happened to be in one of the sessions, and boom, it started the conversation, and then you just flowed through it, and you found that niche within the niche. So that's number one, trying to find that space within your niche that you're really passionate about. Number two, once you made that decision and you're like, this might be a direction we want to go, you guys made the right choice in regards to then consulting with us and kind of saying, hey, we're thinking about going in this direction. What do you guys think? What did we do? It's all data. It was a data-driven decision. Okay. We looked at the data. We looked at where you at in regards to your overall authority, your rankings, right? Your SEO. Chris, you know this. But we looked at your SEO. We looked at a lot of the keywords that you were ranking for. And then we went even further in that niche with our keywords. So yeah, we buy houses, sell your house fast. We're still going after that. But then you made the tweak. The tweak was they went to a very specific avatar, target audience. So we did the research around people that were looking for these type of keywords. We found them. And what we found out, at least in their market, that the competition was lower, right? So what we did is like, in regards to competition, I'm talking about search, people, SEO, other people going after those keywords. So what we did we changed a couple of the keywords on their city pages, which were targeted certain cities. And we went after that particular avatar using those keywords. So that's essentially what we did. And what we found is Google started awarding Ohana Legacy Properties for those keywords. Now they knew what you had done and what we had done together, right, is solidify our authority that we're real estate investors and we want to help. But we want to help everybody. And when we made the tweak to we want to help these specific people in this situation, then we were the only ones there, and you became the top authority in that space. And I guess I can confidently say, because of the stories that you guys have shared with us in the last couple months, that's what it took. It's finding that niche within the niche and really kind of going after those keywords so the right people can find your content online and then be able to have that conversation with you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. It was a lot of work, but it was worth it.
Chris or Sal, whoever wants to take this, kind of catch us up now, because obviously you guys have been in this transition, basically since the start of this year. It was moving a little slow, but just recently some things have started to change. Things are starting to click. To Roger's point, Google's finally starting to award it a little bit more. They're starting to understand it, right? The fruits of this labor of SEO work constantly happening is starting to pay off. Catch everybody up to what's kind of gone on in the last 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks with you guys. What do you got going on? What's happened? And then I'll ask the follow-up question behind that leads into something else, but start there.
You want me to start or you, Dad?
Go ahead, Chris.
So the past few weeks, I'd say within the past month and a half, we have gotten 3 contracts because they were qualified leads and they called in from our website. They had found us through Google, because every time a lead comes in and we ask them, we say, hey, how'd you find us? How did you come across us? And these responses were, I found you online and I searched to sell my probate home, or I searched need help selling my probate home. And they essentially looked through our website. One of the things that we were told about is to pay attention to specific pages by Shawn and Roger to bring more attention to and to put more emphasis in those pages. So we did just that. And those ended up being the pages that actually were more looked at than others. We can go into explicit detail if needed, but now we've gotten more qualified leads coming in than we have in almost an entire year. And the beauty of it is they want exactly what we offer. They say, after we signed everything and signed the contracts and on some of the closings already, I said, what was it about us that you liked? And they said the things that we've been talking about, like, you're family oriented, right? Your father and son, we love that. These things speak to us. And it's worked in our favor. So our phone's ringing. Let's put it that way. It's ringing more than it has the past month and a half than it had since our conception, essentially.
And the beauty of this is, again, what made you go with us? And they'd say, we love the father-son attitude. We love the fact that you're a local company and you're not one of these big organizations, but we sell that. We sell that in our website. And what REI Toolbox taught us is that everything's got to go through the website, and your website is your authority. It's what people look at. And one guy who we got 2 deals out of, we noticed on I think it's Lead Vault, we noticed that he spent a lot of time on the about page, on how it works. Well, we wouldn't have thought about that. We would have thought it was just another page, but obviously it's very important when people are looking at the authoritative level of what you're talking about.
So break down, you just kind of hit on it a little bit here. Chris, you kind of said there's 2 pages that have really kind of been kind of the telltale story, right? Every time you ask what kind of made your decision, or how did you guys kind of decide to reach out to us, it seems to stem back to a couple pages. What are you guys seeing right now? What's been kind of the big aha moment that you guys have seen?
The about page. That literally, you put it in context of, it's like the redhead stepchild of everyone's website. Like, it is neglected. It's done once and then neglected, but that is actually a crucial, important piece because we have pictures, of our family. It's actually the engagement session that we put in there for that day. So there's like special moments and there's biographies, like deep biographies. And of course it needs more work, but we noticed that is being looked at quite more than we would have expected because of our specific target audience. Secondly, would be the how it works page. We have a video. So, we were pushed to do content, and rightfully so. We did the content and it makes a difference. It's awkward. It's all hell, like being in front of the camera.
I was just going to say, it's not the best video.
No,
let's just be honest there.
Yeah,
it's not the best video.
It is. We have this green sheet that's like it's like a bedspread sheet upstairs. We have the lights are electrical taped to the floor, and I just do a tiny little bit of editing to put our logo in and stuff on those videos, and like it works, but almost that's kind of the beauty of it, right? Like, it's not too clean cut. It could be better, and in time it will be better when we grow. But as of right now, that spot works. So the how it works, the about us page, and obviously the main homepage, and that is a whole nother animal. It takes quite a lot of work. And like one of the things we did when we got back from LA was look at every section and how it makes it user friendly. And these guys.
By the way, we used the heck out of your customer support while you guys were mountain climbing. We really busted them, but they really helped us a lot.
They're awesome. Oh man, they're awesome. Shout out to Max, by the way. That man is on it.
We do love Max. That is for sure. Max keeps the support side rolling smooth.
And we had to have some heart-to-heart talks about what he was writing versus what we were feeling. And we had to cross out a lot of stuff, but they were great at listening to the feedback. I think it kind of educated them to the avatar, the two different avatars that we're playing with now. So
nice. Roger, anything on that before I get into kind of this rapid fire session here at the end?
Yeah, I do want to kind of mention a couple things that are going to be very, very important moving forward for everybody that has a website that's out there. And some of the topics that you guys just brought up just kind of takes us right into that conversation. So we're always looking to help people online, all around all pieces of their business. But in general, one of the pieces is getting a website, right? And when you do go out there and get a website, it's really hard to come up with content and content ideas and really kind of figure things out exactly, even when you choose a niche or a niche within a niche, like Ohana Legacy Properties has done here. So what we do really well is provide you inspirational pieces or starting points, right? So you get content packs, you get things that are going to get you going pretty quickly, and they're very optimized. A lot of those, my team and I have spent many hours to put all those together, so to get you in the race. I always kind of use that, get you in the race when it comes to rankings, right? Are you going to rank number one? Well, if you're in a small community, small city, we've seen it time and time again. You'll rank very well. But if you're in a more competitive market like Houston, a whole different story, right? It gets you in the race, gets you indexed, gets you going. But in most cases, you're not going to rank very well right out of the gate. So one of the things that we always encourage is to personalize this content. Personalize the stock imagery that we put on there. Again, we call them inspirational pieces, starting points to give you ideas of what should essentially go there, right? And then obviously we coach every week. We have coaching calls with our clients and kind of show you. And Chris and Sal have been on there. They're all on there all the time. Is to update certain pieces of the website to personalize those things. And the reason I'm really kind of mentioning that here is because this has now become something very, very important. That's not an option. It's something that you must do. Okay. So the reason I say that is because Google just released now it's been a couple weeks, and we say a couple weeks because they always kind of, when they mention that they released an algorithm update to their algorithm on Google, they've been testing. They don't just release them. They've been testing probably for months, right? So what's happening is this particular update is called the Helpful Content Update. So what does that mean? The Helpful Content Update. So this basically just a couple days ago was a big news in our community with our peers in the SEO space, our groups. It's a noisy conversation right now. There's a lot going on. people kind of figuring out what they're gonna do. They're worried. There's people like getting really freaked out. Well, I want to let you guys know to not worry about that helpful content update, because there are things that you can do. All right. So things that you can do are a lot of the things that Ohana Legacy Properties has done here. Update your photos on your website. First thing maybe that you do is the easiest part, right? Because you don't have to write anything. You just go on your website, check it out, see if there's any opportunities that you can add a photo that you've taken, right? For real estate investors, us here, you should be looking at all your city pages. You should be looking at the how it works page. You should be looking at your about page. Chris just talked about that. In our data, it shows that people will go in those directions. That exactly, not necessarily in that order, but a lot of times they're going to find you on your city pages, right? From there, they want to they look through the city page, want to see what you do, what kind of authority you have. So a lot of those badges become very, very important, right? When I say badges, the Better Business Bureau is just a big one that I see a lot. The Google 5-star reviews, right? Badge that you get. Something like a local association that you're a part of, or maybe a certificate, right? Some kind of certificate that you got in your particular niche that I know Chris and Sal have done, and you put them on there. If you are maybe a part of a entrepreneur veterans group, they have badges. So all that stuff matters, guys, because that way you're connecting with people. So people want to see that. Right. But the content itself, again, I mentioned it before. We're all saying the same thing. It's really hard not to say it because you have to say it. You got to tell people what you do. We buy houses, right? We buy houses in different situations. We buy houses this. But within that content, tell a story. There's opportunities to tell your story. Why do you buy houses? Why did you get into this? Tell us a case study of a situation that you helped somebody out of in a certain city, right? Those are the ways you optimize or you improve and you personalize the content to make it helpful. Tell people what your process is in detail, not just, these are my 3 steps. We start you. This is how we start you. We give you an idea, but what we found out, again, years and years in this particular niche, Shawn and I, we found out that everybody has a little bit of a unique process. You should be sharing that with pretty much your traffic, your audience, your target audience of what that is. Not, sometimes it can get a little overwhelming in regards to every little step, but you know what I mean? You can break that down into very consumable steps, right? That someone can say, ooh, all right, I get that. And that speaks to me. Sounds simple enough for me to do it. I'm going to go ahead and call these guys. So that is a couple things that you can make tweaks to. And again, I'm going to go over the pages real quick. So look at your city pages, right? Because those are the initial ones that will get hit. Those are essentially the ones that are ranking very well. But then people will most likely either go to your about page. So make sure you have personal pictures of your family, your company. If it's more people in your company, share that. And the how it works page, show your process. And something that Ohana Legacy Properties here has done very well is they have a video. So if someone wants to consume the information through reading some stuff, they can do that. But they also have a video talking, and it's not someone on Fiverr that got recorded, right? It's them. Who cares if, I know Shawn gave them a little bit of a hard time there with the video. Who cares? That speaks to people more than you going and hiring somebody else that's not you. Because when they call you, we're like, who was that? And they're like, oh, it's some actor, right? No, you're talking to Sal. You're talking to Chris. And that's the real person. We are in the social era, right? Everybody's on social media. They're doing it. They want to see you. The most famous people right now in the world probably are influencers. They're normal people that got famous by being out there and being themselves. So being yourself on your own a website, representing your own brand goes a long way.
I wish we would have known that. Shawn and Roger told us to do that. They're personal. They told us to do that, and we didn't think about that. That's not something that was in our basic training. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right on, Roger. Thank you.
All right, let's have a little fun to wrap us up here today. Chris, you said you guys are getting more leads now than you've had in the last year, the last 60 days. What would you say? How many viable, highly qualified leads would you say have come in
I'll tell you right now
to the business? Or Sal?
I'm looking at my board because we keep track of it. It's about 8 qualified leads in the past 3 months. Qualified, where
right.
we get off the phone, we're going to see the house, and we're like, oh my God, you know, of those, what have we gotten? 4?
4.
Yeah.
4 under contract.
We're working.
Yep.
3 under contract, working 1.
Yep.
So 3 under contract, 1 in negotiation. So possible 4 out of these 8.
So 50%.
50%.
Let that sink in for a second. 50% of the highly qualified leads you're either in contract or negotiating contract with.
Yep.
When we look at things like direct mail, you're looking at 2, 3, 5, maybe. Right? Cold direct mail, whole other ball game when we go highly targeted direct mail, but cold direct mail, shotgun style, right? So 8 leads, and I'm more talking to the people listening to this out there, the ones that are gonna watch this. Let that sink in. I think Sal, you said it earlier in the show. We're not getting as many leads, right? Some people might go 8 leads. That's it in 60 days. Well, when you're putting 4 of those 8, potentially 4, right? You got 3 under contract with a potential 4th, right? And I don't want you guys to give away too much detail or knowledge here, or granular stuff about the business. But on average, when you guys do a deal, what's a deal worth to you?
About 35,000.
So take 30. We'll play on the short side of things. You're sitting on 90 with a potential of this 4th coming in of 120
for 1.5 months. That's in 1.5 months.
Yeah,
but this is all built up again. So we're looking not only at this, we're saying, well, what's going to happen towards the end of the year? Actually, yeah, I mean, it's pretty dramatic.
So actually, you bring up a really good point there, because we talked about this earlier in the show. Right. A lot of people shy away from this because it's very slow going. It takes some time to get some steam behind it. They're confused. They don't know what to do exactly. And they want, I call it the Amazon effect. They want the instant gratification, right? They want to be able to do something. That fucking guru told me I could be a millionaire next year. I can't wait 6 months for the momentum because I'm supposed to be there next year, right? So they go to the quick hits. Well, I can cold text my you-know-what off, and I'll eventually get somebody. Whereas over here, it's a lot of output for very little input until it clicks. And then it's, Roger and I have talked about this for years. It's that flywheel effect. And pretty soon, you guys don't have to do too much, right? It becomes that machine in the back end that's running, and it's always out there working at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning for you.
And Lead Vault's been great. I mean, we use that as our basis for everything. And we're still learning it, but I mean, it's just phenomenal to be. And again, it does all the things that we know it does, and hopefully more.
I saw you unmute, Roger, before
Yeah, I was going to make a comment. Make sure you're on the flywheel that keeps you going, that works by itself at night, not on the hamster wheel.
Yes.
That goes nowhere.
He's just full of them today. Full of the good ones.
Is that a gold drop? Is that a gold drop on that one? I think that.
We could give him the gold drop, I guess.
When he's rested, he's okay.
All right. Anything? Actually, I got one final question, then I'll let you guys sign off with any final thoughts. But one final question I have to you is, you've been in this game for a couple of years now. You've obviously had the roller coaster ride up and down. Things are starting to look really good right now. Got some things kind of jiving. I want you to picture and imagine for a second you're talking to the Chris and Sal that was just sitting in that quote unquote free training. What do you say to that person?
Oof, I'd say learn everything you can, but there's one thing that they said that we didn't pay attention to, that nobody pays attention to, is you are in marketing. You are a marketer. and you're going to have to concentrate on marketing. You're going to have to, they talk about the little black box. If you could put $50 into this black box on one end and it cranks out $1,000, how many more times would you put that in? No one paid attention to that because they were talking about the process. The marketing side is so expensive and so valuable, but they really don't teach you that. And we were doing trial by error. And the good news is we met you two guys and you helped us and we believed in you. And when we said we were all in, I can't tell you in the background, when I say we were all in, we were all in. Okay. We're continuing to move forward and looking for bigger and better things.
Chris, anything you'd say to your past self?
Yeah, first of all, my past self would say, how the hell did my future self get here? That's pretty cool. I want a time machine. Second of all, I would say, I had to be cheesy on that one. Definitely, I would say learn everything on the foundation and try and focus to a category, not a niche, not a specific word, but focus in one direction and pay attention to that focus. And then, honestly, I would say online presence is key, very key. Very, very, I use the word when I describe it to people, vital. It's vital. It's absolutely vital. So that's what I would tell my past self. And I'd jump in the time machine, come back here. That'd be pretty cool.
Awesome. Roger, anything final for our boys?
Yeah, so I saved one for everybody. A last thing that I'm going to leave you guys with, and I purposely did not mention it in my process, the conversation that we had. It's a bonus for everybody. That's super important because sometimes, again, I talked about the 5 steps, right? The 5 steps. So what are your next 5 steps? Sometimes we try to jump ahead to step 5 before we even accomplish step 1, right? So what I want to leave everybody with that I think it's very important for everybody to do is to get reviews, right? Get reviews for your company. But remember, you hear, again, the experts, the gurus, that's the most important factor. You have to get reviews. But how the heck are you going to get reviews when you haven't helped anybody? So get out there, set up your branding, do the legwork, right? Get some pictures on the website of projects you've done, or I know not everybody has done a project and real estate investing hasn't done it, but you probably consulted with people. You've helped people through situations by giving them information. So when you go through that, you add that to your website, you add that to your social media, you share, you set that up. It's easier for somebody to be willing to give you a review. So reviews are very important, but it doesn't work as well when you don't have your branding done. Because that person that you might ask for a review or whatnot, they go on there and they're just not, they're not willing. But when you have a set branding, what I've noticed is like they feel like a real company that cared and it reflects. Because if I'm going to leave somebody a review, I want to make sure it's a company that I want to be associated with because your name's attached to it. Remember that. A lot of people that haven't worked on their brand, even though you might have given them value, they look at your online brand. I don't want to be attached. I know you helped me, Chris, but man, your online presence looks like crap. I don't want to be associated with that, right? But when you have your ducks in a row, you have your branding, you have, a lot of examples, man, I want to tell the world. I want to tell the world that you helped me and I want to recommend them to you. So reviews, guys, get out there, work on your branding, then go to that step, then start asking for some reviews.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you guys for coming and hanging out with us here today. Don't go anywhere. I am going to push you to the backstage, but when we end, we want to continue a conversation real quick. But again, thanks for everything. Anything you want to say before you guys sign off to everybody?
He's muted. Sometimes he doesn't.
It took him all show to have that happen.
You muted, Dad.
This happens all the time, folks, on our trainings.
Anyway, basically, thank you guys for having us, and thank you everyone who is listening. And hopefully, you got something out of this. And by all means, we're not the highest success example, but we are an example of putting in work and actually having a plan of action going forward. And you can make some awesome things happen. That's what I want to leave with.
And besides that, Shawn and Roger are really good guys to hang out with.
We appreciate it. We'll have to have you back on maybe in 6 or 7 months and kind of do where they're at now kind of episode. So We'll chat here in a second. Hang on before you guys jump off. All right. So for the Web Buzz podcast coming finally back, that was a pretty good episode. What do you think?
Yeah, no, it's a lot of good information, a lot of good shares. Can't be better kicking it off with these two guys, just killing it out there. I mean, the true. I mean, this is one of the things that we talked about coming back, right? The real talk around real estate investing marketing, right? Just being true of the process, what it takes to get to that goal. And I think this episode nails that.
Absolutely. So until next week, we are committed to getting this show back up and going. You'll see more shows like this one with some of our clients coming on. You'll see some other shows like we did in the past. You'll probably see some shows where Shawn or Roger just goes on a complete rant and talks real talk. But we are back. And if you haven't already, if you're listening out there on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, any of those, if you haven't hit the subscribe button to subscribe and know when new shows come out, do that. If you're the type that prefers to watch, you're here on YouTube, make sure you hit subscribe to the channel. Turn that notification bell on, all those things, so that you get notified each and every time we throw another video out there. But thanks again, Google Nader. I'm glad to have you back. Glad to have you in that podcast.
Glad to be back, man. Glad to be back.